Well, I do know that I've seen a lot of people talk about the vinyls because of that sound. A lot of people love that vinyl sound,
Yeah,
and
Yeah,
that's
or
what they're
warm.
going back to.
The
yeah,
digital
I agree.
harshness doesn't.
Yeah, the fact that it's analog, like it's not digitally on the album, is just like imprinted actually on the plastic itself. I think that also is an attraction for some people, in a sense that there's
Yeah.
a physical aspect to it that
There is.
you
It's
don't get it with
amazing.
CDs either, even though
No.
it's a physical
Yeah.
format. You don't get that physicality with
It's like when bell bottoms came back. No.
Yeah. And remember, John, I'll tell a John story. I don't know if I told this last time. You know, CDs are indestructible. So John, you
Uh-huh.
know, he gets his first CD ever, and he's the
hmm,
die-hard Van Halen freak, right? And he buys 1984 on CD. Mind you, we had just moved to California. We were all on allowance at the time, so it took him like 4 weeks
Yeah.
to drum up the money, and he did. Brings it. He hasn't even played it yet, and he comes in and he goes, "Yo, I got my first CD. I got my first Van Halen 1984. Aren't these things great?" He pulls it out of the box and he's like, "Look, you know, you're so small and everything." And he goes, "The best of all, they're indestructible." And he takes it and he wings it at the wall, and
oh no.
he takes a chunk out of it. Just like somebody bit an apple. He takes a physical chunk right out of the disc, and then he was so disappointed. He's like, "Oh no!" And it would play. It would play. It was just Top Jimmy and the last two songs. Top Jimmy and uh, wasn't Girl Gone Bad. Anyway, yeah, the last two songs we couldn't listen to. That was his punishment. So he learned the hard way they weren't indestructible. Because the look on his face, and we got dead silent because I thought he was gonna
Yeah.
cry. But look
He
at
was
what he
crushed.
right. But look at what he went through just to get to hear Ted Van Halen songs
Right. Yeah.
when he wanted to, because that was
Yeah.
the ultimate payoff. Was not the CD itself, was the fact that he could rock out to Van Halen in digital, which happened to be hot at the time, whenever he wanted to.
Hmm.
And he lost a piece of it. He didn't lose all of it, but it's a funny reflection on life lessons that this band had to go through to get as far as we got, because without those we would have never had the tools to survive, you know because the ones that we met with on the road, a lot of them, easily had blood in the price tag. We I'd be a liar if I didn't say we didn't dodge bullets. We did, you know, not bullets that were meant for us because we did something wrong to somebody, just circumstance, just like moments. Matter of fact, that story, the Alamo, that I'm going to share with you later is definitely a reflection of like dodging bullets.
Yeah. Right.
Am I not right?
Yeah.
I'll 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 give you one line from that story. It came from the beloved Mr. John Segreto, okay, well, our lighting engineer, and the one line is, "You run, Paul. I'll hold them off."
It just keeps getting interesting, more interesting.
Oh
Well, let me put it this
yeah,
way:
and Mr.
15 minutes
Keith,
later, I was trying to put his eyebrow back on, but
yeah,
that's another matter.
Mr. Mr. Keith Black holds a starring role in this nostalgic episode of Rev Lover on the road in his fucking hometown. Anyway,
Yeah.
where is Keith anyway?
I don't know. He's
He's,
collecting tips.
I don't know where he
Keith
He's
is
collecting
out of
tips.
all of us. He's definitely the he's a little bit more flaky than we are. He'll take many more chances than we will. He's just nature. He's
How
very rock and
PG is
roll.
this show? How PG
is.
is this show? We've got great stories about Keith. We could talk about Keith all night
Yeah, we're trying to
long.
preserve what little reputation he has left.
Well,
Yeah, well, I
no,
mean, you can,
I'm sorry, Kevin Neely. Let me get that correct. Kevin Neely.
Kevin Neely,
Yeah,
yeah.
Kevin Neely.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
oh
yeah. No, I mean,
man.
you guys can get as graphic as you want. We don't really care. We had our share of funny stories.
Okay, good.
Um, all right. So,
Yeah.
okay. So, what was the like the when you got the last song you played on a on any given show? Like, what was like the closing song that you guys usually played?
What's the closing
That's a good
song?
question.
Yeah.
What did we do
Uh,
as a closing number, David?
As a
Do we have
closing
it?
number,
Mm-hmm.
God, I
wow.
to be honest with you, I really couldn't remember because we used to play the music a lot, so
Mm-hmm.
we would move things all
All
the time.
around.
So sometimes we would end, but to be honest with you, if I had to pick one, huh? We used to close with higher a lot. I know that.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
What about
Sensationalism. No,
sensationalism
no,
self?
that's
Didn't
it.
we
It
used
was
to do that?
sensationalism
Yeah.
sells. That was
Yeah.
our closer. Yes, most
Yes.
definitely. Now that I
That's
think about it,
true.
yeah,
Because we
we used to
actually
Yeah.
blow everything up in the end.
we used to
Yeah, it was.
close. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
true. Yep.
I blow shit up. Well, here's the best. You know, we our sound engineer Joel, right? Because you need other people to help you. You know, you guys know the deal. You need like somebody running sound, people running lights, people dealing with bullshit, help you drag that shit, set it up. But without our crew guys, we would never been able to do it, right? And we met Joel because we were playing this shack in fucking
Yellow
Oregon,
Morgan.
and
Mm-hmm.
we had a big PA, and we pulled so much power we blew the transformer on the pole, right? And out of nowhere, this fucking guy who happened to be a local, and he figured out a way to get us power and got sound going, and he ran really good sound. And we basically had Kevin running sound who didn't know how to run sound because we couldn't afford and bring another guy. We had two guys with us. We didn't know any sound engineers that were willing to go on the road. And he ended up becoming part of the band. And we used to end with sensationalism, and we always wanted a big explosion, but we didn't have one, right? And what he did is he turned. We had a PV Mark III console at the time, and it had its own built-in spring reverb in it. And one night he turns that thing up to 2,000, right? And right at the end, we're like da 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 da, and we hit that last note. He drops the console on the table, and it makes this horrific, amazing explosion. Right? We thought he blew the whole PA up. We had no idea what that, but we knew it was cool as fuck. We did not care because that was epic, right? It was just epic. And the funny thing is, we loved it so much because then he told us what he did. He was doing it for a while, and after about a couple of weeks of dropping the fucking console every night, he's like, "Man, we need to figure out a way to record this." And I'm starting to fuck the board up, right? And we did. We figured out a way to record it, and we made a sample out of it, and that's how we used to end the night with the big explosion and sensationalism sells. Yes, now I
That's
remember
awesome.
in detail.
Actually, it has a very interesting story to it because it was when we became the four-man band. What we were looking for is basically more impact as a band, and we did sensationalism cells as one of our first type of things where we improvised it on stage, and then later on we are able to actually fuse it into the song where we had that chaotic ending and the explosion, and it was just absolutely like a totally new sound for our group at that time.
Yeah,
Was
but
there?
tell them the story though from the very beginning when we were inside the warehouse, wasn't it? The warehouse, and we were jamming,
I remember that
and
Tom, that
and
song coming to. Yeah, go
and
ahead, I'll let you
Dave,
go ahead.
yeah, Dave jumps on there, hits the record button, and we're playing, and we're just jamming out, and we're playing that rhythm, just out of doing it, and then Dave's like,
Yeah, we
"Hey, hey, play that thing again, play that thing again." We're like, "What thing?" you know.
well,
You're
But
right.
yeah,
he
we
had it
were
on recording.
Yeah, that's right. Because
we that's how we got it through experimentation.
Yeah, we were lucky enough to do that. And we used to do a lot of that back in those days. Then we learned that. We used to just, well, all we had was a cassette player, and we were lucky enough to hang a mic in the middle of the room and just record the room, right? And go listen to it later, and oh, that was a cool riff. That was a cool moment.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment. And then you try to see if it inspires songs.
Was there any specific thing that inspired the lyrics on that song?
I'm not gonna lie. Lyrics were always took me a lot of time and investment with lyrics. I would be a liar if
Yeah.
I didn't say I spent like when I was younger, and I didn't understand it. It was just part of the learning process. Spent a lot of time staring at the ceiling trying to write lyrics and not coming up with things. And then I
Mhm.
learned all of a sudden, don't write lyrics. Try to tell somebody a story. More in that way, because you could pretty much anybody can muscle their way and tell you a story even about how they just revisited the refrigerator, right? And
Right.
that helped me a bit. Um, but personal things that happened at the time was what I usually tried to draw off of, because I wanted them to be genuine. And
Mhm.
I'm not a poet as a lyricist. I wish I was, but I'm not. But I tried to be genuine in what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Music
mean,
and we
you can really that really transpires for the music. I think. I mean, lyrics are interesting all throughout the album, and I don't know. It just paints you a story, like you said. It paints you a story. Each song, it's like its own contained, self-contained like story, and it makes it interesting in a way that some albums are great sonically, but the lyrics are I don't know, really straightforward and simple. Which sometimes it's good, but sometimes you want to hear I myself am a fan of like that maybe because that's why such a Rush fan because I like songs that tell you a story or follow a theme or something like that.
I love that. I'm a huge Rush fan, and I mean, when we met Tom and
Pink Floyd.
John, we were playing in a Rush trio, right? So yeah, I totally
Oh
get
yeah.
that, and unfortunately, nowadays everything falls really short in that department when you think of some of the lyrics that Neil Peart wrote. But it was cool. It kept your interest, right? It was, again, the world was so different. It's a different. There's a different message to tell people when they're listening all the time. And back then, people weren't listening all the time. Um, they couldn't. It just wasn't a choice, right? So you had this wonderful nostalgia and mystique that would welcome you when you came to new towns and propel you along. And all these little songs came from all the stories that we definitely experienced
Yeah.
along the way. I'm trying to think what's the darkest song that we wrote? Like when was it really bad? So, well, Sorrow Road was pretty bad, but um trying to
we
think of
got
the
living on the inside
Well,
pretty dark.
yeah, that was pretty dark. And Push On came from a really dark time, which we told you
yeah.
that story when
Yeah,
the
but that's a
bus had
positive
blown up.
message.
But again, it was a positive message. Hey,
Yeah.
but Push On, I have to say, is by far like it's like a timestamp. That's exactly what we were
Yeah.
feeling at that point. Look, we're gonna push on, because I don't
On.
think most people would have made it past. I thought that was going to be the death of our band. You know,
Hmm.
I saw that
Yeah.
I saw that as resources tapped.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, the bus blows a piston through the side of the block on the top of I-80. So we're sitting up there for what, 17 hours? Ran out of
Yeah, something
everything.
like
Gas, food, water. And then we get towed down to the big trucking place and we're pulled in, right? Where they could take big semis and literally pull them in face to face inside this warehouse. So we're inside there, and what's happening? Yeah, all hell is breaking loose because the tension just rose to the sky. I literally walked out of the bus and I walked out into the warehouse, and I'm like, oh my God, they can hear everything they're
Eh,
saying in there, man. It's echoing through this building, and all the guys are like, look, they're like catching ears, listening and stuff. So I'm like I'm going, hey guys, man, bring it down. But the tension was
Wow.
really high. And when I did the video, I went through like hours and hours. It took me like 30 hours to put this stuff together. When I was going through it, man. I mean, Push On was living through everything I saw. When I did the video, I actually, like I told my wife, I'm actually doing this video for the band because this is what the band is. This is what the band went through. This is what we did. This is how we lived. This is how we strived. This is how we overcame. That's so when you see that, that's why there's the spots of the bust, there's spots of the good times, there's the spots of the hard times. And that's to me, and I just felt like I had to put some of those vocals, the voicings of the band members in the song, where I dive the music down a little bit and then bring the vocals in and then bring it back up and go on. I said, this is what, so that's where that Push On. That's to me that Push On was to me one of the strongest hold together song to the band, in my
Mhm.
personal opinion.
and and when you think about it, you're like a group of guys, and you get smacked up. I mean, you think about what's my message going to be on the way out of this? What do I want to be talking about every time I climb up on the stage and try to reach my dream, right? So you can either get up there and moan, you know, because me and Keith had a different song when the girls left us, so it was a little more self pity type thing. We are like, no, we vetoed that, but no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, but that's the point, is we wanted to be, giving messages of go, go, pursue, move on, move it
Yeah.
aside, go around it, go over it, drag your friends with you if they need to, because they're going to drag you next time. And that's what kept Rev Lover together, that
Yep.
brotherhood of guys, and yeah, we were always all very much on the same plane when it came to writing a song. Like everybody kind of contributed their own little mental place, where they were. And
Yep.
sometimes
Yep.
music didn't even work because of that. So somebody was in a different place than everybody else. But we usually triumphed together and we went through hard times together, because if not everybody was happy, we weren't successful. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and
yeah,
that I think that all the struggles that you guys went through also added to the realness behind the lyrics of
exactly. And all those things that
the.
people did for us along the way that helped us
Yep.
go. I mean, the bus. My parents were definitely the ones that stepped up to the plate on that one, and just and I'm sure it hurt them, but they managed to pull it off and get us the money to fix the bus, because that would have been the end. We were sitting like, oh, can't do it anymore. And we were fortunate that they actually had the means to do that, because that was
Right.
it. No more vehicle. Would have been local gigs only. We would have been back to playing. What was that clown place that we
Oh,
played no, no, remember
no,
when
what?
we
Where?
when we when we first came to California. We adventured off the strip. All right, there was the playing Gazaris and stuff like that, but there were some other gigs to be had off the strip, right? And we played
FM
this.
station?
Yeah, FM station was actually a gig. It was like a bar,
Is
but
it?
it was good, and it took you a while to get into the FM station because it was a long
Yeah.
line, and
True.
if you didn't know them, and it did it. Filthy McNasty used to run it, and it took a while to get in there. But there was some other like oddball shows that you try to get on off the strip, and we were at some dilapidated hotel. Remember, there was like a clowns and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys remember
Was that
that shit.
Madam Wong?
Yes, Madam
Yeah, Madam
Wong's.
Wong.
Thank you. Where
Oh
the
yeah.
rain was coming through the ceiling and shit. You
Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Remember
I
that?
do.
The carpet
Oh my
smelled
Top of my
like,
head.
gosh.
oh my God. And we would do
Off
this.
of Hollywood Boulevard.
Yeah. We
Oh,
would
Yeah.
find these little things and we just did it to get exposure because we were new to town. See, that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize. When you pack everything up in a van and you all relocate to a place that none of you have ever lived in, well, guess what? Fucking nobody.
Right.
Nobody. So
Yeah. Not
we
a
were
soul.
willing to do anything. We would go actually in the beginning. Did you make a friend? Did you? Because we wanted to go to a party and meet some fucking people already, right? And that's what we would do. It wasn't you would meet people down at the strip, but you wanted to meet other people that you could supposedly make friendships with, and find a core of loyal people that are going to show up at your show, and that's what you needed. It was all politics, right?
So, what did you guys remember the first show you played in California?
oh
The
yeah,
very first show we
I
played in
remember.
California was Gazari's, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was that place where that punk rock guy took that bunch of acid after us, and he was wrapped up in
Yeah.
Christmas lights in his underwear by the time his show was over.
That was,
True, I'm
see,
not lying. That's a real story.
still learning stage show lessons, right? Those guys,
Yeah.
yeah, those,
Holy
those
smoke.
guys.
That was our
Yeah, I think
first
our
taste
first.
of stage acting in California.
Where was it, Paul?
It was in Gazzari's. It was our first show. After
Yeah,
we
that's right,
played our
Gazari's.
show,
Yeah.
we were the headliners. We had that weird guy who took acid before while we were
Yeah,
playing, and he
yeah,
was
okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
and he ended up with practically no clothes on, and he was wrapped up in Christmas lights on
Yeah,
the
I
stage
remember
doing
that.
his
I
show.
remember that part. I just didn't realize that was our first show.
California.
And
I mean, some people thought it was normal. I mean, but that was our first show. I remember that specifically.
Yeah.
but
Um,
we went to a lot of shows. Like we even played our first show and even had the uh discipline to pull back and reevaluate. Because we played our first show in like jeans and our Florida look. We had like a denim going on, and
Yeah.
right, Tom.
Yeah.
We had that thing happening. We hadn't gone to the leather yet, but it was more of a denim look. And I remember we played our first show, and we got off the stage and said our fucking clothes are wrong. We need to rethink the image of the band, and we actually did. We because with them we made our own clothes. Right, that was the first white and black outfit that's on Paul's fucking thing right there.
Oh, these are the next
Oh no,
Yeah.
evolution.
no, that's second rendition by Anna
No,
Cartwright.
that's
Okay,
yeah, that's
but
right.
we
That's
made
Anna Cartwright.
clothes. Right, we made clothes. Literally made clothes to look like that.
Well, our women
We went into thrift shops, and then I remember we used to buy all that black vinyl from that one place, right? Tom used to go and
made
just
them.
pick it up all the time. Did you get more of that black vinyl? Yep. And we sat there and actually it's like sewed our own clothes and made ourselves costumes, more or less. And it took a
Here's a
little
picture
while.
of those clothes. Here's a picture of those clothes.
Yeah,
Yeah, there it
those are
is.
them. Those are the clothes
Yeah.
that we all physically made ourselves.
That's right.
Nice.
Yeah, and yeah, but that's what we had to do, right? We needed a look, and that's when we. Matter of fact, if I remember correctly, the name of the band on our first gig, we were still Licks.
Licks. Yeah. We were
Hmm.
still
Bar.
licks.
That's right. So we came back as Rev Lover. We actually changed the name of the band after that first gig with the crazy guy with the Christmas lights.
See what happens when you have
Yeah,
so
we were.
much money?
Yeah.
Or that they're not have.
and it was hard because it took us time. It took us time because even just to get enough money to buy ourselves the outfits and all the shit to do that stuff, it took time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we got antsy, and I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that. We said we had to change
Brunette hooked
everything.
us up with Anna Cartwright. That really kind of changed our image big time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
we found the right people.
Yeah. She was good.
I remember. I remember the first time I went to Los Angeles. Was a few years ago, 2018, I think. And I remember I got to my hotel, And the very first thing, I left my bags and just went outside. Very first thing that I encountered was this completely naked guy just running up the street, and two cops
Uh,
chasing after him. That was the very that's how Los Angeles received me, and I thought, yeah, I'm here.
There you go.
drive through Hollywood. I just
Like,
drive through Hollywood twice every week, and it's rare that I don't go by a week and see some person in some state of undress. Lately, it's women hanging out on sofas, totally naked, but sometimes it's guys walking around with socks and no pants. It just depends what's going on, but they
Yeah,
keep it pretty hanging pretty deep around there.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
that, and this crazy hobo just doing the Nazi salute like in the middle of the street.
I love it. I
Oh,
love
you'll
it.
see
Yep.
some pretty fucked up people in Los Angeles. I don't care what time period.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, it was funny. It was funny. Yeah. um, hey, Paul. So, can you text like Keith and see what where he's at? Or
I can try calling him. Here, I'll see if I can get him on the phone. I'll try right
um,
now. At least he can say
yeah,
hi.
he's gonna miss a show. Yeah, it would be a shame.
I, he wanted to. I'll give him a call. See if he answers here. He's Keith is he's Keith. We are just used to him. I mean, we're totally used to him. I mean, he just is what he is. He's a drummer. Drummers sometimes are
you
Now,
think
now, there's probably drummers watching. You don't want to be prejudiced to drummers.
you think he mentioned last time that how he
It's
missed
Keith.
his own party, like he's the first gig he played with you guys.
Yeah.
He missed. He missed the bus. We left his ass. We
Yeah.
did. And John was the one that drove off, I believe. He was like, "Fuck this shit. Let's
He's
go."
like, where is he? We gotta go.
It's a
No.
bus, man.
getting
It's time to
voicemail.
go.
So you
Wow.
guys can
Uh,
say hi to him. Keith, you're
That's
you're missing out big time. This is all the
that's a
guys here. We're
class,
just saying hey. To you. All right, bye.
classic, classic
He
Keith.
may call back while I'm here. Hard to say what he'll do.
Yeah. All right. So, okay. Out of all this, so which one's your favorite? What was the song that you guys had the most fun playing live?
Hmm, that's a really good
Hmm.
question. The most fun,
Yeah.
probably
Like
sensationalism sells because we would just destroy everything. That was for me.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the vehicle.
that was
it's hard. It's hard to say because they were all designed as a show. Um, they were like puzzle pieces, and you could rearrange them, but usually only rearrange them to a point. Like you wouldn't start a show with sensationalism sells, unless you're a
right.
Slayer or something like that, right? You wouldn't. That's like a ballad for them. But anyway, so yeah, it was hard to say. Like Higher was the kind of song we would start a show with, right? So you got a different
Mhm.
vibe going on. Okay, I've been preparing for this. I've been getting hyped myself for this. This is the beginning. I got to get into my mode, right? And then you got, a song like Cactus Johnny that you're going to drop somewhere in the middle, when you're like stretched out, feeling good, you're in the zone, you're playing, you're going to want to
Mhm.
play a song like that where you've loosened up enough, but you're not tired yet, you know? So I have to
Right.
say sensationalism themselves, even though it was a very high energy moment. We also knew this was like, oh yeah, that wrinkle meat's waiting for me in the fridge right now. Or whatever is gonna happen after this, because I'm tired as fuck. Because that shit, you worked hard, right? And if you
yeah.
didn't feel that way on the last song, you didn't work hard enough, right? And
Right.
that was
No, Rev
tough.
Lover
So
was not an easy band to play in. You had to really bring it, and just not your brain, but your body too. It took everything: soul,
Oh,
brain, body.
And I got to be honest with
yeah.
you, I really enjoyed Wind Me Up because I
Yeah.
like how Wind Me Up just gets it does exactly that. It gets right in your face from the first three counts. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah.
the hammer goes down, and that's where we're going, right? And that was always a lot of fun live because I always loved how the way it just like higher was okay. The lights are coming on, the smoke's on the stage, and oh, I'm waiting to see the band type of thing. It's long drawn out. Where Wind Me Up was just like boom,
Yeah.
where here we go, right now, no waiting. And I always enjoyed that. I always enjoyed that a lot. Who You Gonna Love? I will say, I loved singing the song. That would be the one that by the end of it, I was getting tired. Because it's a lot of singing, right? I
Yeah.
get a little tired at the end of that one of some of those chanting songs. And this is important stuff when you're trying to be a good band, it's like
Right.
it's very athletic, right? You're as a singer, you're very much a long distance runner, you know. It's a really long field you're running across, and every little bit of air counts along the way. But it's a long trip, so don't start too fast because you know what's going to happen here, here, here.
Yeah.
So this constant pace, right? And
Mhm.
that's what we had to keep. I
It's
don't I
pretty
don't know
hard.
I don't know if people don't even get the opportunity to do what we did. We used to play so much when you think about it, six to
Yeah.
seven nights a week, and we
Yeah.
were
Wow.
playing
Wow.
for 4 and something hours a night. That's a lot
Right.
of time on stage to get your shit together. Nobody even gets the opportunity to do that anymore.
No.
No.
Mhm.
No. Not at all. Yeah.
We
We
And
used to practice a lot just in the studio. We'd even practice in the bus on tour.
Oh
hmm.
yeah, we practice. We go in there during the day when if the place was closed or if they only had a few people in it because it was a saloon. And we go and we
Yep.
practice. We write songs, and then we'd even try song ideas out that we didn't even have like full lyrics to or anything like that. Sometimes at a night, we'd play a 2-minute version of a song or something like that. And
Yep.
I just mumble some shit, but I usually had a melody that I felt good enough about that I could present, right? We would
Right.
sometimes do that just to kind of get a feel of it, like, are people seeing this? And then we the next day fine tune it some more and maybe try it again. But
We would
those to
write our
be those are more contrived songs. Again, the real songs they came very naturally, very quickly. I like I said, keep your dreams. 20 minutes, not even. Push on, same thing. Even my heart, I really sat down and wrote my heart in like 3 hours. But I was motivated. I'm. This was post. Girlfriend's leaving me. you know, and
Yeah.
yeah, this was a new love
Yeah.
at the time.
Yeah.
But I
So
think some of the best songs were written that way. I mean, I remember reading Steven Tyler's book where he says that how he wrote most of the hit songs, Aerosmith's hit songs, like in 5 minutes, and just like
yeah,
a shot of inspiration. And I think some of the best stuff is written that way. I mean, if you get
yeah,
the inspiration, just gotta lay it down, write it, right?
well, that's the thing. You got to keep it, right? I used to have
Yeah.
back in those days when I got a little older, not so much then, but I actually had like a little tape recorder,
I
and I
used to
could
carry one all the time.
record an idea. But before that, no, we never even had the luxury of that. You gotta rush to wherever, run to the garage where the tape recorder is, get the guys together, keep this thing humming in your head. You can remember it because we had no way to record really much anything at the time. So it sucked. I've had songs, great songs that have been in my head that never made it. Just on the car ride between here and there. Oh my God, everything, bridge, verse, we've all done it before. It's like, this is genius. This is genius, right? And then by the time I get home and I run and try to grab my guitar so I could at least find a couple chords and maybe sing it out so I'll remember it or something.
It's
And
gone.
sometimes it would happen, sometimes it wouldn't, right?
Yeah, it's
Kind of
funny.
how it
Yeah,
all
I mean,
rolls.
I write music sometimes. At least I try, and yeah, it's funny how it works. Like you think you got it, and you say, "Yeah, yeah, I remember it," and
Yeah.
you really don't.
No.
And, and this band spent plenty of time, crunching out riffs that weren't working, and then times crunching out ones that would work. that's what I loved is how the writing process it changed over time. Like
Mm-hmm.
there was songs
Yeah.
that I would walk in and just okay, a sing-songy song like "Keep Your Dreams" and "Push On," where oh hey, here you go, I got some chords and a melody, you know, even a couple lyrics that popped in, right? Then we build it all around that. But then there was other songs where these guys used to just jam without me, and they just pound riffs all day long, just pound riffs. And the natural course of things where the good riffs would stick around. They'd
Yep.
remember them, they'd play them again, and the shit would just come by, roll by, and they'd do it for hours. I mean, hours. Just like if it was a Saturday and nobody was working, if we weren't rehearsing in a band. Because also, I was fortunate. They did realize that look, I can't sing as long as you guys can play. I just physically can't because they could play for like 6 hours, right? And just I mean, I could do that for shows and stuff, but just I wouldn't have any voice after a while. It's just no, I gotta kind of just you guys always need to get tight as a band, and it was always great to know that that existed behind me. Like I had a band, but I liked that they were like almost a band behind me too, because they had their own hierarchy going on, right? That I wasn't really part of, right? It was because they used to play without me, and I loved that. That those guys grew as a musical core, and yeah, it was really cool for me too. Plus, I found it creative, because they would do some of the work that needed to be done to fine tune things, and I could move on to other ideas.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, we had hours of recordings, hours building Milestone when we shifted gears from Rev Lover to Milestone. See, that's what you guys should do. You guys have heard the Milestone album yet?
I
I have,
have not.
I have not.
You have not heard the Milestone album. I mean,
No.
don't get me wrong. Rev Lover is cool, but Milestone is like the
The
another
next level.
example of Rev Lover saying push on. I
Hmm.
can't believe you have not heard. Do you have the Milestone album?
And I feel like I have to now. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we'll
will.
definitely have to.
Yeah.
You do, huh? Okay, well, I'm going to facilitate that to you.
Okay.
I have a Milestone album. I'm going to rip it. I'm going to put it up on my server, and I'm going to send you a link to all the songs.
Yeah.
Milestone is what Rev Lover became when the rock and roll uh, stopped. When the deals went away, we just
In the
changed.
90s, man.
Yeah, and the '90s came, and this was our response to it. We became a person group with a
Oh wow.
rapper and two female singers, and we
Oh
did
wow.
like yeah, and we did this crossover thing between
Yeah.
more or less like '90s hip hop and like Rev Lover. I mean,
Okay.
the riffs are behind it. We funked it up a little bit.
Hmm.
I do a lot of I do the bulk of the vocals, and there's also a rapper, but he was more of like uh, he was more like a Rage Against the Machine type of rap, but maybe not quite as mad, right? And it's a
It was
little bit of
kind of like when
little
Aerosmith did Walk This Way with
Yeah.
Run DMC. It was
a
that
little
kind of
bit,
Okay.
fusion.
Little
but
bit
this
Yeah.
like that.
but this guy was a white rapper, so he had a different flavor to him than the typical black hip hop rapper. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so he brought a certain sound to him, and we stumbled across it because I was doing a recording studio, and he was my one of my clients, and I used to make tracks for him. I was just getting into all this stuff, and yeah, things weren't flowing with him one night, and he was like, I'm like, why don't you try something on this track that we've been playing? And it was just these guys jamming this riff, right? And he dropped the same thing that he was doing over the other one over the top of this, and it was like magic. I swear to
Wow.
God, it was like magic. And we ended up like pursuing things with him and two female vocalists. But the problem of this whole thing is we got signed on our second gig, signed to
Wow.
an all black label at the time, Sun
Solar
Stone
Records, and it was Solar
Solar
Records
Records.
under
Solar
Sun,
Records.
and they signed us, And then we found out that the guy who was doing the rapping from us, he didn't write any of the lyrics he was using. A friend of his did. So we fired him on
Oh
the
wow.
spot. And my brother, Jeffrey, mine and Paul's brother, came into the band and did more of like he was a little more like Rage Against the Machine. So the three brothers are in the band in my milestone. And yeah, some really crazy crossover music. It's heavy, it's funky, it's different. Um, I was working with Prince at the time, so I had a lot of influence there. It was during my days with him. And I will make sure that you get it. And if you guys decide you want to do another show on Milestone, you take a listen. There's some killer shit. I
I
mean, just
mean, it
killer
sounds
shit.
interesting. I like that type of sound. I'm a Beastie Boys fan. That style of music. So I think it could be up my alley. Yeah.
I will send it to you and you check it out. It was pretty cool. But again, this was our way of saying, okay, we didn't just come out here to be rock guys. We came out here to be successful musicians. So we got to make a hard choice here because we knew we weren't going anywhere as a rock band. Certainly not far enough because there was no money to be made, right? We
Mm,
had to think about the livelihoods of not just one person, it's the livelihoods of many, right? And deals went from $5 million to $50,000, and we knew that that wasn't going to cut the wood. So we
right.
knew we had to try something different. And yeah, we got signed right away, immediately.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Unfortunately, we got shelved, and that's what happened to that. We did. We
Mm,
got shelved. We should have held out. We should have held out. We would have probably picked up
Yeah,
something bigger because we were doing something
it was.
totally cutting edge at the time
mm,
before Faith No
Yeah,
More or any of those guys were doing that stuff.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, yeah. I guess that at the moment you don't have the perspective to know if it's
No.
going to be good a good gig or not. What you're signing to, but
Yeah, but there's some heavy stuff. Like, there's a lot of Rev Lover in there. So I will make sure that you get it. I will
okay.
make sure that you get it.
I will take it. We will take it out definitely. And
Cool.
yeah,
Right on.
awesome. So I guess at this point you gotta tell the Alamo story.
I guess I got to tell the Alamo story because Mr. Keith Black isn't here. And it kind of fitting with his absence tonight. So I'm going to tell the Alamo story. So you ready? You sure you're ready?
I've never
There, there,
been more
there,
ready.
there
Right,
was
did it.
many fallen heroes that night. Let's just say this is classic example of how vulnerable you are when you're on the road, and truthfully, like especially back in those days, you were at the mercy of people you don't know.
yep.
You can't even call for help, really,
I like The
because
Walking Dead.
you don't have any cell phones or nothing, right? So you really think about like the reality of living in an analog world is when you're a band that travels around, that you got to have a little trust, especially when you're outnumbered. So anyway, we had a gig in Detroit, and then we had a gig in Milwaukee when we happened to have a couple nights free. And unbelievably that we had a Saturday night free. I don't know why we did actually, to be
Hmm.
honest with you, but for whatever reason we did. We had a Saturday night free, and Keith is from Detroit, and he wants to introduce us to all his friends and all this other stuff. So we all go out, and we go to one party first, and that was cool. It was nice people. It was chill, whatever. But then whatever, they get this bright idea that they want to go to another party because it's bigger. And we go to this party, and it's at this house, and I mean it is packed full of people. Like this is one of those parties where they're all packed on the porch, right? And before you even get into the house, and when I got into the house, it's literally you have to walk slow. There's not that many people. We don't know fucking anybody, right? So of course you're going to be a little bit intimidated. And a lot of times crew members or Keith or Frank always fell into the category of guys that do stupid fucking things at the wrong time and make us all pay for it. Am I correct, Mr. Westcott?
Yes, you are
Is
correct.
that pretty much
Hey,
uncanny Andy coded?
yeah, that's not candy coated. But you know something? At the results of what this story is at the end of Push On.
This is very true. This is very, very, very true. So, anyway, so we end up in this house now. We were somewhere cool. We were eating pizza. We were smoking weed. There were cool people. We were having drinks. That ain't good enough for Keith. He's got to take us to the fucking hee haw market. And that's exactly where we went. We enter this house and we end up down in the basement. Okay. And it takes so long to get down the fucking stairs because there's just people packed everywhere.
So
And the
many people.
basement has no windows big enough to crawl out of. All right, let me
No,
just put
you're
it that
trapped.
way. Mind you, there's a man at the end of the stairs. Does anybody watch Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
I've
Okay,
seen
well,
it. Yeah.
Hodor is standing at the bottom of the stairs, and he's obviously friends of whoever's fucking dad owns the house, right? Because it was young, stupid young people drunk. So anyway, we go down there and we have Mr. Segreto, our lighting engineer, who is a real hillbilly at heart, to be honest with you. And if you filled him with enough fucking whiskey, he would do something stupid. And that's exactly what he does. He goes down there and they have this bar full of empties on the other side of the room. Why? I don't know. Some girl's sitting right in front of it on a chair, and he goes behind the bar, not knowing anybody, and he sweeps every bottle that's on that bar onto this concrete floor. And it spills all over this girl, and it crashes down on the ground, and he yells out, "All right, who's drinking?" And Hodor did not like that at all, at zero. So we talk this situation down. Hodor actually lets us leave. Everybody wants to kill us. And we're leaving this house and we're outside and we're going to make it to the cars because we were in like two cars because somebody else drove us that were friends of his who got fucked up during this too. And Keith stupidly, as he walks out the door, spins around and yells something dumb inside the house. And they pour out like a zombie horde. I swear to God, there was so many people. I swear to God, I thought we were going to die because Tom was behind me, about maybe 15, 20 feet behind me. He didn't even see it coming. They poured out of this porch and just bowled him over, and he disappeared in a sea of people. I don't know where he went. Went to the bottom of the pile, that's for sure. And I went over to go help him, right? And I didn't even make it there. Like guys grabbed me, somebody grabbed me by the hair. I ended up face down, and I'll never forget. I just watched shoes line up around me, just pairs of shoes. And then it was like a sea of fists. They just were coming. So they were beating the shit out of us, right? And that's when
Right.
some of the guys got out earlier, like Paul and John, and they were down the street and they saw the ruckus. And then the people, the zombie hordes running down the street at them. And that's when John took his boot off. He told Paul, "Run for your life. I'll hold them off." He died on the scene as well. No, nobody got killed, but everybody got really fucked up. And John did.
Man.
John got really fucked up. He didn't even
I
know
had to
what
put
was.
his eyebrow down on the bus, and it just didn't
Yeah,
work.
he didn't even know what was going on because he was furthest ahead out of all of us, and he came running over, and somebody came and put their knee like right in his face, right, and
Oh, no.
actually chipped the mask of his skull, right, that he
Oh,
got hit
man.
that hard,
Oh, man.
right. So anyway, we all managed to get out of there in separate cars and stuff. The guy, Keith's friend that came with us, got his windshield broken.
Oh
He
my
got
God.
ribs broken. We all gathered at Keith's mom's house, and and we had to play a show.
In Flint,
uh,
Michigan.
2 days
Yep.
later, right? And the only one who got unscathed was Paul, and everybody else. I got my front tooth knocked out, right?
No.
I mean, it was crazy. That was the Alamo. That was the Alamo.
Wow.
One word, Detroit.
I thought we were gonna die. We did. We all thought we were gonna die, and it was like a
Yeah,
mass unit.
they hit me from behind, down low, middle, and up here.
Oh, no.
I got an arthritis right up here in the top of from the injury. I have a cracked rib right here. The top part right here was cracked,
Oh my
and
God.
our whole torso was, padded out with fucking, boots and stuff.
And
So
when
when we were
played,
playing, I was like this, just stiff as a board.
Oh yeah.
when we played in Flint, Michigan, they didn't like us there either. we played some GNR and stuff, and they said we want to hear some heavy stuff. You know, they wanted like
Oh yeah.
Pantera,
No,
Slayer, and stuff.
actually, but
Yeah, the heavy metal, the real
that's
heavy.
not where
For me,
that's not where we played though. We did play Flint, and that did happen. We played Milwaukee after we went through this thing. And the funny thing
Yeah.
is I got my front tooth broken, so we had to go find a dentist, right, and play this
Yeah.
show, right. So it's happened Saturday night. We got to travel on Sunday. We got to find a dentist that's going to put a front tooth in my face before I have to sing that night. Then we miraculously did, and he put like a temporary in before he needed. We were only in town for a couple of days, so he had to make a crown, get a crown, get it all, all that shit. So anyway, he puts this temporary in, and I'm singing that night, and mind you, everybody's all busted up and everything. Like Keith got hit with a tire iron in the arm, so he's having a real hard time playing the drums. And John's like got sunglasses on because his face is just wrecked. But I was singing, and I shoot this fake tooth out of my mouth
Oh
onto the
no.
onto the dance floor, no less. And they're all
Where
dancing in
everybody's
cowboy
dancing.
boots, right? And I literally had to go and find this fucking thing and put it back in my fucking head. And I was lucky they didn't step on it, because if they would have stepped
Yep.
on it, I would have looked like Huck Finn all night. That's how it would have played out. So that was the
Yeah.
Alamo. I mean, like broken bones, lost teeth, like
That's when
that
Travis was down there looking through all the legs and stuff.
yeah, I mean, that was the Alamo. We got the shit kicked out of us by a bunch of people we didn't know for something we didn't do. But there was
I've
so many of them. Like the only reason I
Oh
stopped
yeah.
getting hit is because they stopped hitting me. It was that moment. It was truthfully, when you really think about it
yeah.
as an individual,
Well,
you were
and
suddenly
then when
thrust
we
into a situation that you're wondering if your life's going to end because of your life choices
right.
to do what you wanted to do. Were you wrong? Were you a fool to think that this didn't exist? There's a lot of things that go through your head when you're that helpless. And that's what we were. We
right.
were completely helpless. And it
Well,
was
then
scary.
then Keith gets in the car and sitting in the front, and he's like angry, at all these people, and he's like, "I'm gonna run him over," and all this. I'm like, "No, you're not." He goes, "Yeah, but I'm gonna run him over." No, you're not.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, he was going to run people over. Yeah. Anyway,
Yeah.
it was heightened moment, and it really sucked. To be honest with you, but again, it was the cost of doing what you do, right? And in an analog world, you're very much on your own, because we had nobody to call and no way to call anybody.
Right. Yeah.
People that really mattered found out later. Of course, offered to help what they could help from long distance. It's just you're
I
very
mean,
much on
that's a
your
good
own.
thing. I mean, you could have gone viral. Like Rev Lover gets
Yeah,
your ass
right. Yeah,
kicked.
exactly. The Rev Lover riot in
Yeah.
Detroit. I'd watch that.
Kurt
You
Loder
know,
would be
and they,
reporting that on
hey,
MTV News.
and then to top it off, when so Keith's mom, they went to the police station, and guess who was the fault?
Dude.
You guys are a band, long hair, it's your fault.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course.
That's what they thought. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly how they assumed it. And
So
it's
he
just,
walked out
that's
there.
the way it rolls. Just part of the lifestyle. But there's dangers around every corner, because you would never have expected that. Like I remember that evening vividly. And if I would have known, if you would have told me at the beginning of that evening, hey, you're about to embark on a journey that's going to potentially end the lives of people that you've been working you've dedicated your entire life to. See, that was the thing, is everybody had value. When this shit went down, Tom was the only one in my eyesight, and he was the only one I thought of. I got to go help my brother there, because I mean, there was like 20 people plowed over him. Like there was, and Tom's a tough guy. He could stand his ground, but 20 people jumped him from behind with the intent to hurt him. And it was very obvious. And what do? In that situation? You just throw yourself in and, go down together, right? Yeah. At least there's fucking honor in it, you know. But, you know, but that's what
Right.
you're good. That's what you're going to do because it all means that much to you. And I saw that. I
Yeah.
really, when I saw that happen to him, I really got scared. I really did. I really wondered if suddenly this was going to be the end of the road because it could have been. He could have easily got paralyzed in that instant. It could have happened. There was
I mean,
potential.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody could have gotten killed or maimed enough that they wouldn't have been able to carry on. And it was really we were at the mercy of a mob at the time.
Wow.
It's kind of crazy, and it's true. Every bit of it's true. It's just you never know
Yeah.
what's going to happen.
Yep.
For sure. Yeah, it's great.
It's
It
all
is
Keith. It's all Keith's fucking fault, and the same
and
reason
it's
we. Yeah, and also why we got kicked out of the really nice trailer park in Arizona,
Yeah, right.
and a great club in Sacramento. Remember that? See, Tom's laughing. Yeah, that's validation in my story right there. That's gonna have to be a milestone
Uh,
story, right?
Oh
Great
man. Yep.
place. Not coming
Yeah.
back though.
No.
No,
Ain't coming back
won't be
here.
seeing them again.
Yeah.
Hope you enjoyed them while they were here because they're
Yeah.
definitely not coming back. Not while I run this place.
Oh
Uh,
man.
hey Dave, Dave Milligan, you've been really silent all night. Do you got any questions for the guys?
Nah, dude, I'm ready to pass out. I've
Okay.
I've been fighting sickness for the last 4 days, so
Oh
that's why
shit.
I didn't have my usual energy level today.
Yeah.
That's all
So
good. Looks like we have record time again
all
anyway.
good, Dave.
So.
Hope you're feeling better soon.
Yeah.
thank you. I
Yeah.
hope so too. I've had enough of it.
I'm sure.
It ruined my weekend, so
Yeah.
Yeah. And
completely.
Okay. So, all right. I mean, I guess we gotta start wrapping up the episode at some point. So, but the one thing that I wanted to maybe to close on is when you guys was there any like bands or albums that you listened to as inspiration while you were writing music? Like, say you were kind of on a writer's block moment. Was there any band or album that you went to for inspiration, kind of thing?
I think more so is you can hear in our music times where bands influenced our sound. There was Sorrow Road. Skid Row had a little influence in that the color of that song. And you can hear those things like in our songs. Different bands at the time. Because me, when I first started out, I loved things like Triumph. I wanted to be Rick Emmett. That was my first thing. If you really when I first started out, I was into lots of things, but the moment I saw and heard Rick Emmett, that's the guy I wanted to be. And I loved other guys like Steve Perry and
Mm-hmm.
really some really great singers. But we had times where certain music was influencing us. White Snake definitely, kind of slipped some things in there. Definitely Skid Row. It was the biggest, like, a turn point, I would say, for us because we enjoyed Aerosmith and things like that as well. But
Right.
definitely in that Sorrow Road
I,
range.
yeah, I tended to like more my inspiration from the classic stuff. Even though I was into modern progressive styles like Van Halen, I actually always liked music from the past, 70s, 60s. I like a lot of the more classic guitar players, and I like to use a classic approach. So my perception of, at least from the guitar end, is I tried to keep Rev Lover classic, but also contemporary at the same time, trying to feature a balance of those two styles. And I do feel that's kind of reflected in our record because John, even though he was a little more unorthodox of a guitar player, also was more leaning towards the classic style than a more progressive style. So I think the guitarists actually have this kind of really kind of timeless quality to it because of that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Well, it is nice to have mix of different styles and different places you draw your inspiration from. I think that adds to the eclectic uh, um, style that I think the album has. Right, it adds to that variety that the album ended up having.
Hmm.
Yeah, and again, it's
Yeah.
always little moments that inspire things. Sometimes just like a little riff from another song will make you want to do something. Oh, I want to do something. I want to do something like that. Um, it just anything can inspire you. Um,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
it's just how long it inspires you. And if you're lucky enough to capture that little moment, there's just something about it. Again, like Keep Your Dreams just kind of broadsided me, like just I was in my bedroom at the time, and we weren't going through good shit at the time. Actually, we were going through some fucking really bad shit. um and that's the true inspiration that brings good music on.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is those like light bulb moments where you're going for
We
something.
do.
Yeah, it really
See,
is
if
like that. Yeah,
if
you
we
can't
weren't
force.
getting beat up during the Alamo and we could have wrote some music while that was happening, it probably would have been killer. That we couldn't do that. It just
Yeah.
phone
That's
snapping. That was about it. so
right.
so you guys probably have some stories of your own, I would think. Who's been your craziest guest ever?
Like, oh,
Rev
Or
Lover.
can you not disclose that? You
Rev
don't have
Lover.
to use names. Just tell us what he did. Come on, we've been sharing our soul. Tell us who's the craziest motherfucker you have had on this show.
Well, I mean, there was a fun. I would say that there's a lot of funny stories that were shared, the crazy stories that were shared. To keep this Skid Row related theme going, we had Menace Child, who was in a band called Forgotten Child, but also one of the guys in the 18 Alive music video. And he's a really funny guy, and he has a lot of. I mean, he was pretty crazy back then, so he
They
has
had
a
some
lot.
good stories. Uh, Danny and JP from Legs Up. That
Oh
was
yeah.
classic. That's a classic
Oh,
episode.
that's a classic episode.
I
Yeah.
have to
Those
check some of the
guys.
stuff out. I will
Almost
definitely
getting
check some of
killed.
the stuff out. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, well, that's all the things we told you. Lots of stories about us almost getting killed. I can't
Oh
even
yeah.
count on one hand how many times we almost got killed.
Yeah. The
There's
guys from
plenty of
Liquor
those.
Street as well.
Those
Those
guys,
were
yeah, they
funny.
had good stories.
They had good stories.
And
Well,
it's good.
we had the guys from New Haven a few weeks ago. They have funny stories as well.
That's
Uh,
awesome. That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, everyone is. I mean, you can really tell. It was a special time and place to be in, and um, more. It was. You can tell there's like a collective experience that everyone had,
You
and
did,
and
and they paid their dues to be there. Like I said,
yeah,
that's the other
Yep.
thing that people don't a lot don't realize. Like when you saw another guy in boots and passing out flyers, your gut reaction was, "Fuck, damn, yep, that's another soldier in the army right there." Your gut reaction wasn't like, "Oh, I got to outdo this guy." It was like, "Nope, there's another guy with the balls to be here." And who knows where
oh
he
yeah,
came from and what he had to give up, and what he had to do to be there. Yeah, there was a few locals, but you could always tell the people that gave up their lives to be there. You could always spot them out in the crowd. They were easy to snuff out. It was because they were fucking serious. They were serious about what they were doing. They were there for a reason. They were giving up time living in a neighborhood across the street from their mom and dad and all that other stuff to go take a shot at something that most likely wasn't going to happen. And that takes balls. It
Oh
really
yeah.
takes balls. You could talk about it all you want, but when you leave your life behind and everybody that loves you that you can count on and get in a vehicle and drive 3,200 miles away to no man, might as well have been no man's land, really, because we didn't know a soul, not a soul. Actually, we were lucky. John knew one person, and it was somebody who had lived in Florida and moved out there. And that's how we got lucky enough just to get a house because John had the real estate background. And that was the only person we knew there. So it takes you know, you got to want it. You got to want it, And we watch people go home, and we would even talk about it amongst ourselves. Let's, I'd hate for that to be us. And sometimes you had to sit there and say it. There was plenty of band meetings where guys would stand up and say, "That's gonna be us if we keep doing this." So it was a tough love, that made it always kept it together. And you never want to forget that because that's the true dedication that all the music came from, is the fact that these guys stuck it out, stuck it out long enough to have a story to tell.
Oh yeah,
And to have a
and
record
I
with
just
18
remembered that. What was that, Paul?
I said, and also to be able to have a song with 18 songs on it, that takes a lot of initiative to get that all together over the course of number of years. It's a big deal in the long run. That's all that's left in that time
Yeah.
is that our music. That's
It,
it. That's our legacy right there.
where exactly can I find those 18 songs?
Yes, tell us, Paul, because we
That
forgot.
would be on FNA Records, www.fnarecords.net. Here is the Rev Lover album, Too Fast for the Competition, with 18, count them, 18 songs, all original, all recorded by the Kings of the Sunset Strip. That's us, Rev Lover.
Awesome.
www.fnarecords.net.
Awesome.
And and on that note, I will send you the Milestone album. And just so you know, two Rev Lover songs actually made it onto the Milestone album.
Okay.
And that was Push On and My Heart. Um,
Okay.
and My Heart got re-recorded. Um, My Heart isn't on the Rev Lover album, or is it? It
Yes,
is.
it
Yeah.
is.
It's on
Yeah,
Yes,
it
it
it.
is.
is.
The
But is it?
scaled
Yeah.
But
down
is it?
version.
But which
but
version of the recording is it? Is it the one we did for the Milestone album?
The version
Because
of
there
the
was
recording for
there was
on the
two
Rev Lover
recordings.
record was the first.
which
Yeah, we
was
did
the
the first
first?
one in John Michael Studios. That's the one with
Yes.
just you on it,
Yeah.
me with the guitar shells, and Keith just put a little cymbal in there. The
Right.
one that's on the Milestone record is the full production version with the
Right.
movement in the beginning and all the backgrounds. It's a
Yeah.
big, huge version of the song. Totally opposite to the Rev Lover record, which is a scaled down version of that scene.
Okay. I
And
mean, I'm really interested in now. I mean, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
we even
Yeah, it's
expanded we even expanded things on songs like Push On. We added like a whole
Yep.
orchestral introduction to it and extra singing over the top of it. Yeah, we did a few things. I'm gonna send. I'll figure it out and I'll send it to
Yeah.
you guys. I'll get it to you
Awesome.
soon. Take a
Uh,
listen. Gonna make you Milestone fans. And like I said, Milestone is most definitely the example of Rev Lover's attitude of when things get hard, we just get harder. And it was badass. It was badass.
Yeah.
awesome. I'm really looking forward to hearing that.
Okay.
I'm being honest.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I will make that happen very soon. I'll send you a link
okay.
and you guys
Awesome.
can take a listen and then you get back to us because you're gonna want to talk to
Awesome.
us after that. You're gonna be like, "What the fuck?" Because that's what it's gonna be. What the fuck? But it was good
No,
in
no.
its own way. It was
Yeah.
really good, and it was very self-produced. That was like all us.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice. That's awesome. That's really awesome. And well, I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to for doing this. I had a great time. I think you guys are my favorite band to interview. I always
All right.
laugh